In 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, we learn that we are spirit, soul, and body, that there are three essential parts of us. But I'm afraid that those of us who have adopted this three-part man, sometimes we even somehow get into the view that it's our soul that's the enemy and we've got to live out of our spirit and deny the soul. But remember that God created all three parts of us, and the word soul in the original Greek is suke, and that means it's our psychology. Suke is where we get the word psychology from, and it involves our mind, our will, and our emotions. God doesn't reject those. He doesn't want to replace those. Instead, He embraces those. He embraces all that we are, spirit, soul, and body. But some classic Christian authors have told us maybe to watch out for the soul-driven life or the soulical life or the soulish man. And when they introduce these terms, which are not biblical at all, it somehow pits our soul against our spirit. But remember, if your soul is your psychology, if your soul is your personality, if your soul is what gives you your human uniqueness and your character traits, then why would God reject that? Remember that all three parts of you, together, you are a child of God. It's not that God accepts a compartment of you. It's not that God accepts a category, a spiritual category of your existence. We need to be careful that when we talk about the love of God, the acceptance of God, the embrace of God, that we're talking about all of us through and through, that Christ is for us, not against us. You know, we quickly reject the idea that we've got two natures, an old self and a new self. We don't want to teach people a spiritual schizophrenia. We don't want them to look at themselves as having dual natures, battling it out. And in the same way, why would we teach people that it's the spirit versus the soul? That's the same doctrine with new labels on it, isn't it? So instead, we need to teach the true opponents. The opponents are the power of sin, the world, the flesh, the enemy, and those are our opponents, and they might work in us and through us at times, but there's nothing wrong with us. God even accepts our body. Remember, your spirit is heaven ready. Your soul, it's heaven ready too. Can you find a verse in the Bible that says God's going to pull out some spiritual Windex and kind of squeegee your soul off right before you hit the pearly gates? No, He accepts your soul too. Your soul is like a mirror. I mean, it can reflect sin or it can reflect God in a given moment. But there's nothing wrong with the mirror. If we were to open a door over here to the outside and a door over here to the outside, well, eventually we'd get a breeze coming through this room. And with that, we might get some leaves and some dust and some dirt. Who knows, maybe even some animals might come through. And that's kind of like what the soul is. The soul is an experience tank. It can experience all kinds of things. But the soul itself, well, there's nothing wrong with your soul. There's certainly something wrong with us experiencing sin and giving into it and letting it reign in our lives. But the soul itself does not give us our spiritual nature. Your soul is heaven ready. And in heaven, what will the soul reflect? Well, there won't be any sin, flesh, or devil to reflect, will there? In heaven, our soul will only reflect God and who we truly are in Him. Embrace yourself. Embrace who you really are through and through, because God loves you, spirit, soul, and body.